Welcome to Countdown to Infinity, a Marvel's Avengers podcast. We talk all things MCU, and I guess we also talk a little bit of DCU. Look, it's been a long time since a new Marvel thing has come out. I hate to talk about, rumors and news sometimes because I would say 50% of the time you have egg on your face. You're talking about some speculative casting, and that person is never in an MCU movie or something like that. But
and it's always about Doctor Strange.
And it's always about the same thing. And then, also sometimes we talk about production issues, and I'm like, why? Let them figure it out, But we're taking a break from the MCU. We're obviously maybe in just 2 weeks talking about Moon Knight here soon, and we are talking about that DCU,
that competition. What flip side of the coin, as Two-Face would say.
Mm-hmm. We're talking about the new Batman movie, The Batman. It just came out last week, and I know probably the intersection of people that watch MCU movies and watch new DC movies is pretty big, I'm sure. But this is a fantastic movie for Matt Reeves. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it spoiler-free initially, and then maybe we'll dive into some light spoiler stuff. If we do, we will give you fair warning. But my name's Manuel.
Hey, I'm Andrew.
What's up? It's John.
And are you all excited to be on Countdown to Gotham? What would be the title of a DC pod? What countdown would that be, huh? Countdown to... Verse... I don't know.
To Crisis? Countdown to Crisis? DC always has crises.
That's true. Crisis. I'm excited. Well, I'm going to read a recap of this movie. I'm going to start with the first frame and then go to the second frame. We're going to go frame by frame. But it's the Batman movie. Super excited. So here we go. So this is the recap of the movie. Well, before that, are you all excited? Do you think that... How many Batman movies do you think we can do a year now? How many new Batman movies do you think we should be watching?
Write them.
Oh, yeah. John, also, how many do you think we can write tonight?
We can write. I guess how many Batman? I think this is just 1 year that we're doing nothing but Batman movies. I think. I don't think next year, there's not one scheduled for next year. I hope. So I don't know. We're doing 3 this year, technically. So.
Oh yeah, a lot of different. I don't know. You're right. There's been Batman movies for a really long time. They seem to be very popular. Everyone gets to do that voice,
It's true. They get to wear. That Batman's a crazy character when it comes to superheroes because he doesn't seem to kind of go out of style, or something. It's always popular. Those movies are always going to make money. Even though you've seen it done loads of times, it's been done over and over again, kind of like Spider-Man, maybe even more so because you have more Batman actors than you do Spider-Man actors. But yeah, it's this weird anomaly where I think both fandoms, MCU and DC, kind of come together and watch it. Just instead of it transcends just just its own little universe thing. It kind of it's every time there's a new single Batman movie, there's it's an event movie that everybody needs to watch. Not just comic book fans either. I think a lot of people who are casual movie fans kind of really latch on to Batman because he's kind of a very I want to say basic, but it is a kind of a a basic superhero that everyone kind of likes. I guess.
Super recognizable, and the mold fits a lot of different kinds of stories.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting because I think you can be a Batman fan and not necessarily be a DC fan. Mm-hmm. Some people will only watch the Batman stuff because to me, I'm not tired of Batman, but I am tired of his the Joker and Harley Quinn. I feel like that's been pushed super crazy within the last 20 years, and people still love that shit. I mean, the Joker won an Oscar.
That's true. Yeah, multiple Jokers have won Oscars. And yeah, that 2008, that Dark Knight movie was such a pop culture milestone, partially, of course, because of the terrible loss of Heath Ledger and how this movie kind of became the engine for honoring him in a really big way. But it forced the Academy to change their rules about movies that got to be nominated for Oscars. And it's kind of crazy how that movie in particular kind of informed a ton of superhero movies outside of Batman too. Like Dark Knight became like the beginning of a certain kind of superhero film.
Yeah, I think we might have said this on our Dark Knight podcast, where this was like the first superhero movies were being taken seriously. I guess that Iron Man had just hit like a couple of months earlier, and I don't think like it was the beginning of the MCU. I don't think it was kind of, Batman Begins, I guess at the time was okay. I think a lot of people liked that movie, but it definitely didn't have like that impact that Dark Knight did. Dark Knight was like, these movies can be something else. Like they can be, I want to say high art. That might be a little weird, but they're movies that were after that were taken very seriously.
Yeah.
Like, because not just the box office thing, but the way the acting was going, the way the set pieces were.
Huge.
Yeah,
movie.
it was a big movie. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about The Batman, the newest iteration that just came out last week again. So after 2 years donning the cowl and cape of the masked vigilante, the Batman, Bruce Wayne, played by Robert Pattinson, encounters dastardly clues left by the Riddler, played by Paul Dano, that threaten to unravel his personal life and family beliefs, and perhaps all of Gotham itself. He's joined by Jeffrey Wright as Lieutenant Gordon. Hold on. I can't read my own writing.
Andy Serkis.
And also Andy Serkis as Alfred. And then Selena Kyle, aka Catwoman. Oh, Zoe Kravitz. That's what I wrote here. And a mix of criminals like Penguin, played by an unrecognizable Colin Farrell, and Falcone, played by John Turturro, who is a crime boss. This marks the 14th live-action Batman film, the 7th in the last 20 years. Matt Reeves directs with a script from Peter Craig, and I googled Peter Craig. Peter Craig, who helped write this movie, is Sally Field's son, and he wrote The Town, Bad Boys for Life, Top Gun Maverick. He's a really big writer for Warner Brothers and Paramount right now. But this movie, oh boy, we're not going to talk about too much spoilers, but Drew, what did you think about The Batman?
Oh man, yeah. I mean, we went to go see. I saw The Batman with our boy Brent, friend of the pod.
OBBB. Oh, our boy Brent. Wait, OBB. OBB. I added another B.
It's
Bitch.
true. our bitch boy Brent. I was kidding. Love you, Brent. Feel better. So I want to go see it with Brent, and I remember seeing the first 10 minutes of this thing, like the intro sequence and the title sequence and stuff like that, and immediately after, being a huge comic book fan and working at a comic book store, and this literally being my line of work, I turned to Brent and said, "This is easily the best Batman movie." Like, emphasis on Batman, the best Batman movie that's ever been, and that was from the first 10 minutes. It could have got worse, but it didn't. So, it was. I thought it was amazing. I think we're gonna start to get to the point where
it kind of did get worse, sort of like
in a sense.
Like not like in a bad way, but like wasn't exactly the high of the first act or the intro.
Wow! Shots fired.
I'll explain.
John
later,
interrupting me
during
my turn and throwing his 2 cents in. I'm just kidding. No, I thought it was really, really cool, and I think we're gonna get to the point where now we're gonna start to deviate between the source material fans and the people who just watch it casually, because we talked about this a little bit with Marvel, where you have to check out the miniseries. So you have to go and get Disney Plus and watch WandaVision, and you have to put in that work and watch Falcon Winter Soldier. You have to watch What If now, because Captain Carter's going to be in Multiverse of Madness and stuff like that. So I think there's a lot of stuff like the Eternals, which people aren't taking too well towards. It's doing better now that it's on Disney Plus and it's more accessible. But again, we're covering these topics that are going to ultimately kind of put a fork in the road for people. It's like, oh, this isn't going to be for me anymore. Yeah, it's cool. And so I think the Batman kind of lies there, where if you're a fan of the source material, you're going to love this, because it's him at his core in every book that he's in, for the most part. And it reminds you of all of his classic titles. And I remember just kind of watching it and thinking that, man, like thinking, I wondering how they were able to put it all on screen, and rip it off the page and things like that. But every single part of production was amazing. Where you could tell Matt Reeves did his homework. He gave everybody else their homework to do, and they had the right inspirations, and they had the costume design, set design was amazing. Makeups was on par. Cinematography is probably the best looking Batman ever.
They used Baby Yoda's home, the
The
volume.
volume, and then and you can't even tell. But yeah, it's like being in the Batman the animated series, in a sense of being able to kind of world build and give you this vibe for the whole movie. But and then of course the acting and the supporting cast, and kudos to Matt Reeves. Brent told us a hot take where he says that he thinks Matt Reeves is a better director than Chris Nolan, which I can see an argument for. But it is I think he's one of the few underrated directors that we have in Hollywood, where it's like, man, like you should be doing so much more things. And I'm glad that he's taking the reins of some of this DC universe with James Gunn, because that sounds like you're gonna get a bunch of amazing content pretty soon if those two are involved the way they are right now. But I'm really excited just to see it do very well, so that way we can get sequels and the spin-offs and all that good stuff, because now there's a whole different avenue where they can release stuff, and you need content for it, which is HBO Max. And again, it's just this literally feels like a year one title where it's like, oh man, like there's so much more that we can cover, and now that it's laid down the groundwork for all that stuff that we saw.
Yeah, great point about Matt Reeves. It's insane how we overlook the success that the Planet of the Apes reboot was.
Yeah.
Maybe one of the best reboots ever, at least in modern times. And then total snubbed. Like those movies should have won all 3 of those visual effects Oscars that year, because the stuff that was going on there in that Planet of the Apes movie is wild. But yeah, Matt Reeves, really, really talented guy. John, what'd you think about The Batman?
I loved it. I thought it was great. I was also like in shock at some of the stuff that they put on screen, which you just, like I think the opening, Drew kind of summarized it, where the opening was just insane, where you kind of get the, the shadows. I mean, that's not really a big spoiler, because Batman is in the dark.
Ooh,
but like,
John,
kind of
spoiler, you spoiled the use of shadows in the film.
That's in the trailer. You're like, there's more sun. Excuse me, my bad. It all takes place during the day.
Nope, not gonna watch it now. Too dark.
Anyway,
literally,
it was kind of one of those things where, like, yeah, like it's just like, wow, and you again, like it's almost, you can't really believe what you're seeing in a way. And the fact that they kind of nailed down the tone that a lot of the Batman films in the past have been missing is kind of incredible. I mean, the fact that like, without like spoiling a whole too much of it, I think like what I was saying earlier in the text message, I think we're all texting about this when we watched it.
We were sexting, yes, about this.
Yeah, we were texting about this. I had said that like this movie, the other movies like Nolan minus Batman Begins, like I think Nolan and even Snyder to a degree kind of seem like they try to do it. I got the sense, maybe they're not doing this, but I got the sense that they're trying to kind of be a little bit better than the material, or like, avoid some of the more, I guess, fantastical elements of it, which in turn kind of makes it a different movie. I guess like, Dark Knight is very different from Batman Begins. Batman Begins does feel like a Batman movie, but Dark Knight does feel like a crime drama with a person in a superhero and a clown, or in a superhero suit and a clown. So they feel really different. They don't really feel like something's always been off about those movies. Like in Dark Knight Rises, the same thing. BVS and Justice League are also their own things, which feel really different. And I still think that Snyder wanted to add realism to those, because Batman ends up killing, and to Snyder, like, people who have that much power are going to kill some people, I guess. But Reeves and and his crew really nail down the tone of like a Batman like comic, in my opinion. Like it's really cool. To me, it was watching like an episode of the animated series, how everything is kind of, it's very serious and grimy and dark. Like especially Gotham City, it doesn't seem like it's no wonder that Gotham City didn't flood earlier, because it always seems like it's raining at that place. But like they, I don't know, like just the whole atmosphere of it. I feel like I need to see it again to like really soak in what like what I'm actually just trying to say, but like the atmosphere of it, and then the broodiness of it, the performance, especially the performance, without getting into specifics, like really kind of drove this whole thing home. Like I think it's like probably the most Batman, give or take a few things that are kind of like obviously changed to make it suitable for film, like in terms of like some character specifics. This really does feel like a very standalone like Batman story. I know it's inspired a lot off of the Long Halloween and Year One and stuff, but it was great. I loved it. I saw it with my girlfriend, and she also was like blown away by it, and it was pretty awesome.
Yeah, this movie, I think, I read somewhere that Matt Reeves, when he pitched the movie, had no specifics, no real, story arc or anything, but came in just talking about the fact that he wanted to make Bruce Wayne and Batman empathetic, no matter what powers they had or what that journey would be, because that's what he has done for most of his characters. And it's weird to say because, obviously Batman is a well-known character, but there is a lot of arm's distance going on with the audience because we're not billionaires. We're not rich.
Yeah.
We don't know anything about Ra's al Ghul. So, we appreciate him, but we definitely aren't that connected to him. And in this movie, there's something really accessible about the Batman in his version. This isn't a huge spoiler, but everything he does, his gadgets, the stuff he's using are absolutely attainable and I know that's like grounded and real, but you can do it on a level of The Dark Knight where he also runs a defense company that has a Tumbler, Batmobile, and also he has Morgan Freeman helping him out. But so much of this movie is accessible, and then it's married with just kind of the style of making Gotham somewhat claustrophobic, and it's really weird because it's a huge city, but we see so much from Batman's point of view more than any other movie. And I don't literally, although that does happen, there's a lot of Hitchcock voyeur shots in this movie, but everything is about what Batman is experiencing at that moment. And that's something that is new, I think, for all Batman films. And you even if it's some kind of subconscious in the big chase sequences, the dramatic moments with specific characters, it's incredibly personal, and it's incredibly, I would say, like focused on him as a person. And then the story is, I mean, you already talked about how it is a kind of a detective story, and it's akin to like All the President's Men, Chinatown, Seven, Noir, but also the thing that pulls in the person investigating the crime when it switches to be something that's actually important to them, you're objective, and then suddenly, oh shit, it's about me. And I think that's what's really, really special about this movie. This is not an objective movie. This is a totally 100% subjective Batman centric movie. And I think that's really, really cool.
Yeah, that's really cool too that you mentioned that because it almost like, even in The Dark Knight, it doesn't seem like Batman is the main character in that movie. It almost seems like he gets overshadowed by his villains in the Nolan movies. I want to say, I mean, maybe not so much in Begins, but definitely in Dark Knight and in Rises. They're kind of plays. They kind of take the spotlight away from him, really. And this one, this is very different because it's just basically all on him, which is very, very, very refreshing. And it's like, it's cool because you've never seen that before. Everything is like from his POV. I think you got a little bit of that in like the intro of BVS, I want to say. But I mean, then it kind of like, even then, like that's a movie that deals with Superman also, and then other stuff, Wonder Woman. So like, it's really nice and refreshing to have like just a very centric, where that story is literally all about him. Like, and it's cool.
And I will say that there are, and I brought up Seven and stuff like that. It's a big, I think, win for anyone who's writing this story, that you're like 2.5 hours into the movie and you still aren't sure where it's going to go. And that's good. Like that level of suspense. And even without getting to spoil, there's a part in this movie where you're like, okay, this movie's done. It's wrapped up. Like, cool. It's fine, but it's not over. And that, I think, is what's really nice, is the fact that unless you're playing on like the level of the Riddler, which Batman, is trying to be at. Like you never really know what's going to happen. And I think that's kind of where a lot of the fear and stuff is, at least for everyone in Gotham.
Yeah, I like as you mentioned, Seven, and I guess Zodiac is also like very prominent in this movie too.
And Chinatown is, he said, his biggest inspiration, but I don't want to ruin Chinatown.
Chinatown, you can totally tell. I think it's good the way the city looks. Like the city has never been this unique before. Maybe in the Burton movies where you kind of see it like
it's big. It's big as hell.
Well, it's big, and also just the way it looks like is very different. Because I think when we get to the cities in the Nolan movies, and I know we keep comparing Nolan movies to this, but it's only because that trilogy is really
recent.
Good.
Yeah,
well, it's also really good too. But like the city in Nolan's movies are like, I think it's Chicago at some point, and then
then it becomes Toronto.
Yeah, and then Pittsburgh, I think, and Rises or something. So like this city looks like it's something very, very different. Like it looks basically like like a made up city, which is pretty cool.
It's its own character, because you're right. In Nolan's, he doesn't really put that much thought into that side of it all, so it feels like a generic city, and that's what I like. I know people, like John said, people keep comparing these two specific ones, and they keep putting these two specifically head to head because everyone's debating on which one is the best. But I think there are good arguments for both in different aspects. But one of the parts that I think is really, really cool is people keep asking which one is the better Batman, and I think that goes to Pattinson because he's Batman 100% of the time, if that makes sense. Where like in the Nolan movies, it's Bruce Wayne dressing up as Batman, and then he even finds a way to quit to become Bruce Wayne full time. This is the real Batman where it's like, no, I'm Batman 100% of the time when it's the day I'm asleep or I'm doing research or, I'm getting ready to go out as Batman at night. So I think it's really, really cool because that's one of the things that I think, Batman in the comics, he sleeps for like 40 minutes and then he goes and he's Batman the rest of the time. Yeah.
He's tired.
I know people were like, no, that's the weak spot here. Like his Bruce Wayne sucked or his Bruce Wayne was absent. And I think it's very much on purpose because, again, it's Batman putting on the costume of Bruce Wayne rather than the vice versa that we usually get.
And it's part of why Reeves cast Robert Pattinson after watching the Safdie movie Good Time. Pattinson has that sense that he's always just his character can be incredibly empathetic, but also incredibly obsessive and frantic and trying to survive. And his
jacking
Batman,
off to a mermaid wooden doll
in the lighthouse. But this Batman is driven by such a personal code, not even code. I mean, it's not a spoiler, it's in the trailer, vengeance. Like it interrogates his belief system in this movie, which is truly like vengeance. Like forget the origin story. Like he's 2 years into this, and he's almost lost his mind, he's
almost like downward. It's like a downward spiral into like this violent side that he has. Like you can tell
it's apolitical almost. Like it's just here's I'm gonna try to fix this myself.
Again, you can see this in the trailer when he gets shot and stuff. He's walking into gunfire like that. It's almost like it's suicidal in a way. Like he's just kind of like walking into it, and it's just like that's a very unhealthy like obsession that he has, like just being Batman. So like I do like that. I don't think that was explored a little bit in some previous movies, but like this not to the extent it's explored here.
And I will say this. So that's what we thought about spoiler free. As of right now, spoiler-ish. Okay. Spoiler-ish. So turn it off if you haven't seen it. But I can't, but it's sort of, a lot of this stuff also kind of subverts it. And Reeves talks about how vengeance, there's the fear in the shadows. He knows people go into a Batman movie to see Batman fight and do badass stuff. So he starts the movie that way. And then he sort of does, and I don't know if people are going to like this, he sort of Last Jedi's it. He flips it completely to be like that version of Batman that you like, the one who just wants vengeance and you want him to kill everyone all the time. He's the wrong Batman. Does that make sense? Like he is going to become a different kind of person because if he keeps going down this path, he'll be the Riddler. He'll be like You'll be Ben
Affleck's Batman.
Yeah, because the Riddler is it is the mirror opposite of Bruce Wayne, and it in a way it's subversive in a good way. And I don't know why people aren't like going kook. Everyone loves it, which I'm like cool. But this is why it's so special. And of course, there's the imagery. There's the scene with the torch, walking, leading the people out with a light, seeing him on TV rescuing people. But it's a pretty damn hopeful ending.
And
it's
no pun
almost
intended that he changes from vengeance to hope. Like that's the thing.
Yeah.
And you're like, holy shit, this motherfucker's Superman now.
He gets pulled out of his depression in a really interesting way. And there is the low point that I mean, it doesn't get any lower than saying, oh, the whole reason you're doing all of this, the vengeance that you seek, well, it's actually wrong because your dad made some pretty, your family isn't really anything to hold up on a pedestal.
Yeah.
And, that part I think was interesting. It happens very quickly. Like I almost laughed out loud when the second Alfred woke up. He's sitting there and then he's like, you lied to me. And I'm like, what a way to get out of a coma. Like just to be like, oh shit, I'm alive.
Exactly.
When
This guy's pissed.
You also see that in Andy Serkis's performance, which like he's like super happy to see him.
Yeah.
And then he brings up this thing and he's like, oh shit, like I'm in trouble.
Hey, sorry, man. Damn. I just woke up.
Yeah.
But that's
Next time you
actually-
take the bomb.
He's like, yeah, I wish I would have died right there.
I know he's just unplugs the cord. He's like, fuck it. But I think there's also kind of even that moment is one of the things I really liked about the movie is in Reeves' storycraft. He almost messes with the temporal stuff too. Once he finds out that he's the next target, the whole phone call thing and, that whole section is so cinematic that I was like, man, this is cool. And then it almost makes you not trust some of the stuff that happens later. Like the moment when those bombs are exploding around Gotham, I was like, wait, is this happening? Or is this like, not, but it's part of why he broke the rule in the Alfred scene is to make you feel the chaos of the last one of the Riddler doing his thing.
I think that's what makes this movie so different and so cool is that so many. I mean, obviously, Batman's been around for 80 years, and this movie has more to prove.
Drew, are you saying public domain? We can make a Batman movie now?
I said this movie has more to prove because it's the last one coming out, and because there's so many good ones before it, and that's animated, that's books, that's movies, whatever. And so I think it's really cool here because he. Obviously, there's a lot of lore here, and he's not scared to kind of flip some of it on its head. Where there's 3 specific ones that are kind of like shocking, where it's like, hey, your dad, built the foundation of this, what he built, what he built on a lie, and your mom isn't who you think she is, or it's
She's
like, oh man,
wild.
Well, and and that affects a lot of his lore too, because Kate Kane. Or that's her name, right? Batwoman. Like she's from that side of the family, and now that part of the family doesn't exist. They're Arkhams now.
Yeah.
And so, is it going to be Kate Arkham or what? And then there's also the crazy Falcone thing with Catwoman. With the ties.
It's a big twist.
But I think it's really really cool that he's not scared to kind of flip it on its head or evolve it as it goes, because that's what's going to keep this character feeling fresh.
Yeah, and I think that's what is really special about the movie is Reeves leans into all of like the cinematic tools possible, including, visually, of course, but there's a lot of like subversion that happens in this movie constantly that almost interrogates who the Batman is. And I think that's really cool because I think it happens a lot in comic books all the time that Batman is has some kind of not just question morality, but of like purpose. Paul Dano, his Riddler has a purpose that he thinks. So does Catwoman. And during the movie, it changes for everyone. And I think that's really the success of a movie, not just having characters to have them. Because obviously Catwoman, it would be fantastic in any movie that you probably put her in, or the Riddler, like just having
Catwoman with Halle Berry.
Catwoman with help, 9 lives. I think it's partially just finding a way to connect everyone, including the Penguin, into like the story where there is a change in their character instead of them just popping in to do one thing and then dipping. So it's
like a certain character.
Well, it just feels really meaningful, I guess, in a really fun way. But yeah, any other
the
big
Scarecrow in the Dark Knight and the Dark Knight Rises.
Hey, you're talking about the judge of New Gotham? He's my judge. Any other like big things? I know. So we're gonna do a big long episode, I'm sure of this after second or third or fourth rewatches.
Viewings, yeah.
But any other big kind of takeaways? We're in the spoiler zone, so
I don't know. It's hard to kind of like choose one thing because like everything is like really great. Like
It's a 3-hour damn movie.
Yeah, and
That's full. It's rich as hell.
I think like when I was doing my first impressions at the beginning, I didn't even comment on the detective part of it, but the detective part of it is the entire movie, and that's like really cool. You never really get that from. Again, I keep saying like you don't get that from the other ones, but you really don't. So that's what makes it so unique here. I don't know. I think it's polarizing. I don't know. I'm not. It's not a whole lot of like. I don't think like the praise that it's getting. I don't think it's like super duper enthusiastic. Like it's not like some people are praising it so well, and then some other people are being like it's fine. And then some people are kind of not digging it. And commenting on. I mean, everyone's gonna like different in the age of the internet now, and we're in a post Snyder, post Spider-Man world.
It's true.
So like everything's gonna be kind of a little different. I do want to say that like it is a little bit of a weird choice that this movie is definitely not for kids. Not that Batman needs to be for kids, but most of it, I don't think a young person would probably find. Who knows? But like I don't think they'll find like a 3-hour slow burn of a straight fun.
They're gonna find the Riddler terrifying, or they're gonna see like Catwoman and they'll be like, "Where does she work at?"
Yeah,
it's like borderline not even an action movie.
They
like
say
it's They
say their one fuck that they get. They say it within the first 5-10 minutes.
Fuck bomb.
They're like, not for kids.
I wish there was more fuck in this movie. To be honest with you.
Yeah, and it's a
Penguin.
It is differently. Yeah, like that's just kind of like a weird like choice for me, in my opinion. I'm not sure. I just think like that's something that's probably not gonna. If I'm hoping it has legs, like next weekend or something like that, but that might be a factor in stuff like kind of because you saw that drop in BVS and stuff because you watch the movie, you're like, oh shit, like this is pretty dark, and this is I think darker than that. So like, I mean, it's not like dark like as in Batman's not mowing down people with a machine gun anymore, but like but it's still dark in other ways, and yeah, like you're right, there is not a whole lot of action in this to the point where like other than the Batmobile scene, which I think is great, like the ending to me.
Yeah, that might be why you didn't like the ending as much because there was no action, and so when there was action, it felt weird.
Yeah,
it is.
What kind of popcorn shit?
The action was. I did say like that the action came out of almost nowhere. Like it seemed like an obligatory thing to do. I think I'll probably appreciate it more on a second.
It is intentional. I think that Reeves said that it is kind of the idea that we're only seeing Batman have these. That's his tool for getting stuff done, and the tool becomes less and less effective as the movie goes on. Like you can't just punch your way out of everything.
Yeah,
and and that's what's really cool, like because he is ultimately human, and so like it would make sense that his tactics are, and there's that rule of 3 thing where like he's trying to get into the Iceberg Lounge, and the first time he's Batman and they close the door on him and he beats his way in. The second time he's Bruce Wayne, they let him straight in, and the third time it's kind of like a mix of both where he sneaks in. Yeah, and so you're like, oh man, like this is cool because this is the way like it shows you how easily he can get things done as his different personas and how effective each of them are in their own ways. Yeah. And I think so much of him is that where it's theatricality. He's using these gadgets to kind of essentially terrify people. Where like it just makes them paranoid. And as it gets further and further, you realize that like oh man, like I have to do this right now. I have to start fighting people or else people because it becomes less effective.
And I guess to your credit, for kids, I mean I think they honestly may just have a hard time following it more than. Because I mean, we were like younger when we watched the Dark Knight movies, and I don't know what the fuck was happening half the time, and I was loving it. But this one really relies on you being able to read, and then also to being able to like follow along
with the steps. Yeah,
and it's made because it is almost completely Batman's point of view. Nothing is spoon fed, which I actually appreciate. There's archival footage, which is sometimes, you roll your eyes at, but there's no flashbacks in this, like where it's, and I thank God every day we don't see another murder in front of that damn theater that we've seen over and over again for all of these Batman movies.
Yeah, you're going to have to testify at this point.
We're all on trial. Good golly. But it is a lot of information, I will say. And there was a moment, I talked about when Alfred woke up from his coma. All of that happens fairly quickly. The Riddler telling him about his parents, him finding out about his parents, and then reconciling with Alfred happens faster than anything else in the movie.
Yeah.
Because everything else is kind of, it's mealing stuff out. You're figuring out a little bit here. Who is this? Where is this thing? And that the emotional core part happens like quickly. It's like, everything you love sucks. Is it real? And then everything's okay now.
I just think that like the pacing, because of the slow burn of it, which I loved, but I just think like that might rub some other people the wrong way. And I do want to say that the movie did feel long. Usually when you can feel a movie that's like long or not, and this one did feel long, but I loved every second of it, I guess. I don't know why I said that, like if it was some sort of negative, but some people, when they feel the length of a movie, that's usually like a red flag to people, I guess. Like
it's and a lot of it is the ending, like because there are multiple in this, but intentional again because there's another plan that you didn't even know about that the Riddler was, hatching. That would feel, because even subconsciously, you see, the Riddler drinking in a diner and they get him. You're probably thinking, cool, the credits are coming up soon, instead of another 30 to 40
act.
minutes, of frankly political, relevant stuff. But hey, let's go around the horn again. We're not going to talk too much about Batman, even though we've gone on for almost 40 minutes, but we're going to have a full-on spoiler full review, complete with a game, other stuff that we didn't talk about. So make sure to tune in to that in the near future. But we've come to the end of this one. If you've listened to this so far, you've seen Batman, so you know how great it is. So yeah, what are we going to tell you? To watch it? You've already seen it. Watch it again, I guess, right? Watch it multiple times. Get some of.
There's no MCU thing. I'll go watch this.
Yeah, go watch this. But Drew, what do you have to plug?
Not much. Stay safe with all the pandemic restrictions lifting. Stay on your guard. Get boosted if you're not. It's a little late for that, but yeah, you do it if you haven't. It's all FDA approved now. Nothing to worry about anymore with the temporary FDA, whatever, the emergency approval or whatever. But yeah, and then also check out the Dirt Sheet Radio with my buddy John. If you like that stuff, professional wrestling and things like that, the business is booming, as they say. And then check out The Countdown Strikes Back, which I'm more heavily featured on. I love Star Wars for por vida. And so I'm going to leave some plugs for John.
John, what do you have to plug?
I almost forgot what podcast this was. I thought I was about to plug Countdown to Infinity, but that's this podcast.
Yeah, listen into it.
Where we talk about mostly Marvel shit, but in this case, we're doing Batman. So I'm going to plug Revenge of the Sequel, where you can find other Batman shit on there. We do Batman a lot on that podcast, actually. So there's past episodes of other Batmen that we talk about. I think we're going to have a James Bond-centric season pretty soon. I don't know when we're recording that, since we're all very, very busy people. But we hope to record that one in person to kind of have the dynamic that Revenge of the Sequel has. That will be
the sexual chemistry. We got to feel it.
The tension.
The sexual tension and chemistry that we all have in person will be...
People don't know this, but whenever Andrew and I are in the same room, we talk just as close as Catwoman and Batman talk to each other.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're on that pose where he's trying to holding her mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Where he's trying to keep her quiet.
I'm passed out and Drew kisses me. And then also after I got shotgun, whenever it's sunset, I think it's sunset, we stand on the roof and we just get real close. Yeah, we get real close to kissing often.
So yeah, Revenge of the Sequel. From all of that, Revenge of the Sequel was a cool podcast. And listen to Director Showdown, where Brent and Adam talk about cinema. I think they're still in.
Zack Snyder versus Michael Bay. I promise you, they're gonna finish it. Brent gave us his word.
BVS, Bay versus Snyder. So yeah, listen to that. That's some good stuff there. And I think that might be it for my plugs.
Well, thank you so much for listening to this. We'll be back with Marvel next week. And then the week after that, we're talking Moon Knight. Episode 1 will be out there. And
then after Moon Knight is Doctor Strange. Boom.
Oh my gosh.
We're just rolling.
We've got so much happening. And I mean, it feels like it's late in the year just because WandaVision and Falcon had come out already at this time. But no stops. The
No
brakes,
stops.
the brakes have been removed from the boat.
Schedule.
Do you know that Batman hits like HBO Max on April 19th? That's crazy.
Tiny
I'm
windows,
excited.
small windows.
Yeah,
All right,
that's
bye everyone.
Tiny windows.